Hi, I'm John Brookfield. Today what we're going to talk about is basically usable hand strength. A little bit about my background. I'm 46 years old now, pretty much worked on lower arm strength, hand strength, strongman stuff most of my life. When I was about 15, 16 years old, I lived in Indiana, went to high school there, and at the lumberyard hardware there, I met an old gentleman. He was in his 80s at the time. He was actually an old strongman from Russia, basically, and moved to the United States many years ago. And he worked there at the lumberyard, and he actually bent some 60 penny nails and drove some nails through wood with his hands, stuff like that, even though he was up in his 80s. And I kind of got bitten with the bug right then, and it kind of interested me. And then I was playing sports at the time, playing basketball and football, all the regular sports, and I had a good athleticism background, good upper body strength, could run pretty good. My father was a professional basketball player, but I kind of understood from this gentleman and looking at myself, my hands were kind of small and frail, and my wrists and my hands weren't very strong. My rest of my body was pretty well advanced, but I realized at the time that I needed to develop a lot more usable hand strength, or hand strength that you could take to your battlefield, whether it was sport or activity or whatever. So it kind of got started from there, and just kind of started working different ways to develop hand strength. So what we're going to do today particularly is kind of give you a roadmap or a blueprint for hand strength, kind of a blueprint for success that you can open up and kind of cut through all the clouds. There's a lot of stuff out there about grip strength. I've written some books on it, but I've been doing a lot of research here in the last year or two with myself, and also some people that I've trained, kind of privately, and I think I've found kind of a system that will help you move your grip strength to the next level. In other words, we all put labor in, but I think I found kind of some stuff that will definitely help you move to the next level, whether it be sport or activity. Or also, many people are interested in closing the iron mine hand grippers, or bending the red nail, or heavy pieces of steel, or tearing cards. So today we're going to kind of look and give you a blueprint for success on grip strength, if you will, to find out what'll work the best for you. Talking about usable hand strength that you can take to your battlefield, your sport or activity. When I was, like I said, around 16 years old, meeting this gentleman, what I started working on particularly was just actually bending nails, 60 penny nails, 40 penny nails, that type of stuff, a few bars. And, I worked on that for several years, actually, before I got into like direct hand strength. But my point I found out with in sport and also trying to bend steel, that the grip was the weak length. In other words, no matter how strong that I was or anybody was in your shoulders, upper body, you couldn't utilize all that strength without a good lower arm strength, grip and wrist. So basically, my point with that is we could take a big steel bar out here right now, and a huge steel bar, and put it in a vise. And if we have a good sturdy vise and we clamp that vise down very, very tightly, as tight as it'll go, where it's very, very stable, and we put our upper body and our core and everything in to bend that bar, we should be able to bend that bar because we're using all our upper body strength, and that thing is secured tightly in that vise, okay? Everybody knows that, but on the other hand now, if we put a big steel bar in a vise that's not strong, or we don't tighten it up properly, and we pull it, it just kind of slip or slide around or even come out of there, so all the strength we put into it is not going to be utilized because there's slippage there. So the same with our hand strength. To be able to utilize all our strength, all our athleticism in any program, we have to have a secure grip as possible. And if you look at hand strength too, not just from a sport aspect or doing strongman events, something like that, it goes back to human survival. Just to briefly get into that, any animals would use their hands or their claws, if you will, to fend themselves, to climb trees, to dig in the sand, to burrow, dig holes. So just for human survival, our hand strength is very important too if you trace it back through time. And in our case, we want to do it for sport or activity particularly. And people are interested in closing the hand grippers, the iron mine hand grippers, bending heavy nails, the red nail, or tearing decks of cards. So So today what we're going to do is do a blueprints for success, if you will, on building that kind of hand strength. You know, as I got a little older, I don't remember when, but you know, I heard about a fellow by the name of Richard Soren, and I didn't know who he was, but I heard he could close these real special hand grippers that nobody else in the world could close, and ran across a guy, heard about a guy by the name of Gary Stitch, used to have a world record like on squeezing like a special grip machine, which would be weights on it, it would kind of slide up a bar. So, you know, hearing about those two guys, like I kind of tracked them down. I found both of them, and they shared information with me, and then from there, kind of got bitten, and not only using hand strength for bend steel, but wanted to learn more about actually how to isolate, you know, your hand, so to speak, for closing grippers or, you know, for things like that. So, you know, I heard about Iron Mine Enterprises, and just called Randall Strawson out of the blue, and had a good chat with him. And I think I said something like, you know, I was interested in, you know, I do strongman events and would like to develop some of the strongest hands in the world. So he was telling me about the hand grippers he had and some other gadgets, and kind of right from there, that's kind of how all this got started. You know, just kind of one thing to the other. So, you know, through meeting him and you know, the older guy from Russia, and talking to Richard Soren and these guys, it kind of really got me going and got me motivated, and I've been at it ever since. So our goal today is to give you guys the blueprint for grip strength, to be able to do what you need to take it back to, so you can succeed. You know, a little bit about, you know, with grip strength, with preparation. A lot of the guys I'm talking to are experienced with grip strength, but a lot of people aren't. They don't really know how to train their grip. And, you know, I'll say this with grip strength or any kind of training, basically any exercise is good, but some exercises, you know, anything, you know, can injure people, certain types of people. We don't want to overtrain. So I'm going to speak just a little bit on hand health, you know, and keeping your hands healthy. But preparation means everything. You know, people call me all the time, you know, wanting to close a heavier hand gripper. And, you know, I'm not really big into certain routines. We kind of learn our own body and know how much is too much or what's not enough as you get going. But, you know, most people I talk to are doing way too much, you know, training. They're very enthusiastic, which is a good thing. That's going to get you to the top eventually. But I think it's very important to train like 3 days a week or every other day. You know, and like if you're trying to close a hand gripper or lift a heavy weight off the ground in a pinch grip, don't just keep going back to it over and over and over. I mean, that enthusiasm means a lot. I was the same way, I still am with certain things, but try to discipline yourself. You've disciplined yourself enough to be motivated to train hard for those goals. So try to discipline yourself enough that you don't overtrain, okay? Because if you use those two disciplines together, you know, little by little, one's gonna go far. I think you'll succeed a lot better. So, and two, a little bit about hand hardening. I won't get into that, but you know, like, you know, a lot of people try to harden their hands too much, like, you know, like breaking and stuff, and that's okay if you want to do it, but kind of history kind of shows people that's done that, they develop a lot of arthritis and things like that. So, you know, just be smart. Don't injure yourself. Don't be too overzealous. You know, just kind of take it slow. And a lot of things you naturally do with hand grippers or bending, you're going to develop a certain toughness in your hands just naturally if you kind of little by little take it to the next step like that. So just like I said, be motivated, but also motivate yourself not to overtrain. That's just as important motivation or discipline factor as well. And what we're going to talk about next here, I'm going to talk a little bit about hand health, and I'm going to give you an exercise that not only will keep your hands healthy, but also you can use it to gain a lot of strength and a lot of dexterity and muscle control as well. What I'm going to show you now, share with you, is a special exercise, not only for hand health, but once again, this exercise you can take it to any level. I mean, it'll be very hard for somebody to even probably to start it at a high level, so it can turn into hand health or you know, or develop a lot of usable strength as well. You know, in one of my books, I talked about just taking like a golf towel and rolling it up like that and balling it up. What we're going to use here is basically a beach towel. I think it's about close to six foot in length, and instead of just using one hand at a time, we're going to use two hands, okay? And I'm going to show you how to do this, then I'm going to tell you why this is so important, okay? Because I'm going to share something with you that's going to greatly help you with all your strength training, the blueprint for success, if you will, for grip strength. But just start like this, and you have a fingertip grip on your towel, and basically kind of grab maybe towards the middle a little bit. And obviously what you're going to start to do is just roll this towel up, okay? Just kind of rolling it up kind of slow. And see, I'm working all my digits, my thumb, you know, very, you know, vary greatly at every angle, and I can already feel it in my forearms a little bit. And I'm just continuing to roll the towel up, okay? Just continuing to roll it up. As it's getting thicker, I can't even get my hand around it now. It's all the way up. And I'm going to start it back, and I'll show you why this is so important. As far as the hand health, see, you're working all your digits like this, your thumb, working all the leaders of your lower arm, which is great for circulation and hand health. But what this does is something farther than what the eye can see, so to speak, okay? Now, when we're actually gripping, it's important that we have strength when our hand is almost completely open like this. And also when our hand is kind of the intermediate level where it's partly closed. And then also we need strength as well where our hand is completely closed or almost closed, okay? So the complete range of motion, if you will. From open hand to intermediate levels to when your hand is in a fist or the very last level. And that's what this does, okay? So basically, when we're starting out like this, we're gripping the towel, something almost about the size of a coin. Our fingers are actually just about together, okay? So we're building hand and thumb strength at that level. And then as we start to roll this towel up, the towel is obviously getting thicker. And as the towel gets thicker, my hand also starts to open more and more and more. Okay? So we're working all the digits, the thumb and the fingers. The towel keeps getting thicker. I'm feeling it in my entire lower arms, getting good circulation, good usable hand strength, okay? Now as our beach towel is about completely closed or closed, see, I can't even remotely get my hand around that towel. Okay, there's actually a couple inches. My hand's about like this. So I'm working the whole level, my hand almost completely open and completely tight. And that's why something like this is so important. And you get a complete pump in your entire lower arms. It not only works your fingers and your thumb, it also works your wrist and your forearms as well. So I'd highly encourage you to do this kind of training with a towel, with two hands. Obviously you save your time when you're using two hands instead of one. It's a very, very good warm-up just to keep hand health and warm-up. But you can also take it to the next level. You're using a heavy towel like this, keep going up several times, put a lot of pressure on it. You can use a heavier towel. One very, very simple way to do it, if you want to add resistance, you can use buckets of sand. A very, very simple way to add resistance is just wet your towel. If you can't do it with a complete towel wet, just wet the bottom of the towel. As you get better at it, just continue to wet your towel all the way up until the thing's completely wet if you'd like to. That way you're going to have much, much more resistance. So you're using the traditional progressive resistance with this towel just by simply wetting it or using another towel. Sometimes they'll even use two towels. You can do the same thing, it's just going to get a little bit thicker. But I highly encourage you to do this exercise, not only to keep your hands healthy and prepare them for other things, but also to gain good usable strength as well. You're probably familiar with the famous Captains of Crush Grippers from Iron Mine Enterprises. This is a new one right here. They actually come in 7 strengths now, starting with the guide and the sport, then through the trainer all the way up to the number 4, which is obviously the hardest. But here's a brand new one here. I got it in my hand. As you can see, they're very attractive, nice shiny handle. And basically very elementary stuff. You guys know how to hold hand grippers and stuff, but we'll go over just a few little issues here. And basically when you're closing the hand gripper, you just set it in your hand like in this position. My hand's a little short here. It's okay to slightly push the ends down and just get a good grip, and then just, as you see, close it down, okay? Like that. You don't want to hold the spring like that. The springs are well put together. There's very unlikely they would break, but just don't get in the habit of holding the spring. You want to make it more difficult and do it the way people are doing it, and kind of keep your other hand back away from it. When you're trying to close a set gripper like a 3 or 4, there is rules. We won't greatly get into that because that's kind of a whole different thing. But basically, once again, very, very simple. Just set it in your hand, where you can get a good grip on it like that. Move your other hand out of the way and basically just close it. Don't be trying to grab a hold of your hand or like this. Just close it like that, okay? Now here's what I like to really speak about. One thing people have been for years are trying to move to another level, to close the number 3, the number 4, whatever your goal is. You may be struggling with closing the number 1 or even, trying to close the trainer. It doesn't matter. We're going to give you a blueprint for success on grip strength today. But like I started to mention with that towel, here's what's so crucial. I found this out in the last couple of years with my own research. It's worked for me. It's worked for some people I've trained it on. Some people are stronger with their hand wide open. In other words, when they first start to clamp down that gripper, you may find somebody, matter of fact, I actually found someone myself that could actually get a number 3 gripper They couldn't close the number 1, but they got the number 3 gripper about as close as the number 1. So the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, I met this fella, he's actually a big logger guy, lives around here, and he gets each one to about maybe a quarter inch from closing, but he never closed the 1, but the 3 he got about as close as he did the 1. So my point is, see, he has a lot of strength from the get-go. When his hand's open, he's got a tremendous explosiveness coming down, but what he's lacking, he doesn't have that last little bit to be able to close that gripper. So he's weak in that area because of leverage or for some particular reason. So our whole idea today to try to help you is show you a way to develop strength in your whole range of motion. Once again, some people, when they grab a gripper, they're real strong taking off with it, but they may get right there and stop, okay? You may have some people that are weak closing the gripper. If they clamp it down far enough, if you gave them the gripper this way, where it's right together, they may be able to close it. So our goal today is to actually develop strength, show you how to develop strength in all those levels. Complete range of motion from close in, from medium to wide, okay? I want to just mention this. Basically, you know, the way I see the hand grippers, they're more of a testing device, if you will. In other words, you know, they're world renowned to kind of test people's hand strength, to gauge hand strength. They can be used, you know, with people just using them as a way to train your grip with the smaller ones. But basically, I think you do better if you see them more as just a way to test your strength. So it's just a simple point, don't overtrain with the grippers. I mean, train with them, do some reps, but I think by doing other alternate exercises, and we'll share some of those today, you'll actually do better, like we were talking about overtraining. You don't want to just keep grabbing, like say the number 3 gripper, you're almost closing it, you know, or you can close it once in a while, not all the time. Don't just keep setting it down and going back and back and back. Once again, it's good to be motivated, but be motivated to discipline yourself too, to set it down, because that way you're going to go farther in the long run, okay? So use other exercises as an alternative and use this as a testing device as well, okay? Okay, what I'm going to do now is show you a couple of exercises using the hand grippers that will help you develop crushing strength and move from the next level. In other words, everybody out there that's used the grippers realize that if you're moving from the 1 to the 2 to 3 to the 4, there's a big gap there. It's not like bench pressing or curling a weight where you can just simply add another 10 pounds or 15 or 20. There's a pretty good gap there, and that's the problem people have trying to go from one level to the next. There's just too much of a gauge there from time to time. So one thing, you know, a lot of you guys do strap holds. You know, I kind of invented the strap hold idea where you put like a strap, or, you know, the Iron Mine strap, or a piece of leather like a belt or something, and you clamp onto it and then add some weight to it. Very, very good thing. I'm going to show you something a little bit different, same concept that might be a little more user friendly here for you. Basically, this is just, can't even see the weight, about a 2.5 pound weight. It doesn't even matter. But we're talking about, you know, different ranges of motion with the gripper. Like say, for example, with this, you know, get a good bite on the gripper and clamp it down on that weight. So see, I'm now fairly close to closing the gripper, about a 1/2 inch, and I'm holding that weight, seeing it shaking just a little bit. So I'm using my hand strength to keep that weight from slipping out of the gripper. So in the process, I've got to squeeze a lot harder than I would normally squeeze there. That's going to help you get to the next level. In other words, say if you're squeezing 200 pounds of pressure, for example, just holding it there, to actually keep that weight from slipping, you're going to be squeezing, we don't know exactly how much more, but extra amount of weight. And so instead of, you know, and you can clamp different weight on there, but I'll show you one principle that's much, much easier than trying to figure out and putting extra weight on there or whatever, because you can gauge it yourself and get a feel for it. Just once again, we're going to clamp this little plate here onto the gripper, okay? We've got it there. And just take my other hand, for example, I'm going to slightly start to pull down. I'm trying to pull that weight out very easily. I'm putting just enough pressure until it slips out, okay? So that's a very, very good way to train from that level. You're close there, you're almost closing the gripper that last little bit. Put a little plate in there. I'll show you a couple other things you can put. Hold that plate and clamp down. If you can barely hold it, work with that plate for a while. If that plate seems to get kind of easy, just use a little bit of pressure like I showed with your alternate hand to kind of slowly pull that thing out until it slips out. And through my own research, I can guarantee you by using that, you'll develop a lot more crushing strength, and you'll be able to go up and climb the ladder going to another gripper quite easily. You know, I think it'll make a huge difference. Just one other illustration here. This is a wide, one of those old fan plates, about 5 or 6 pounds. And of course, this is a lot wider. Same thing. Now we're talking about, developing strength with your hand open more. The gripper's not going to be able to go over this as far. So this way, you can train range of motion by using different thicknesses, like with these weights. Okay. Once again, we're going to get a bite on here with the gripper and clamp it onto that weight right there. Okay. Now we're holding that weight. The gripper's open wider, a different level. I'm holding it pretty easy. I'm going to put a little pressure there, just putting a few pounds of pressure, a little bit more. It simply just slips out. Same thing, wherever your sticking point is, put a weight in there like that, clamp down on it. If you can hold the weight pretty easily, start to put a little pressure. If the weight's heavy, do some workouts till the weight's fairly easy, okay? And what I would suggest regardless, I would use 2 or 3 different weights. We used a thin one, kind of intermediate. You can use 2, maybe even 3, and just do a little bit of training like that. Just maybe a couple times a week, put those weights in, those plates in your gripper like that, and just hold them and little by little pull them out. I think that'll make a very, very big difference. It has with the people I've trained on that as well as myself, okay? Another apparatus I'm going to share with you that'll help you with crushing strength on the gripper. But before I say that, let me share this. With myself, I've found that when you're squeezing an object that's moving a little bit, it seems to develop, with my own research, a little more strength than something that's stable, so to speak. So what I'm basically saying, like say if you're squeezing a rope, rope climbing is good for hand strength and upper body strength. And when you squeeze a rope, there's a little bit of a give crushing in on the fibers. Where if you're squeezing just a heavy bar, or a shaft of a bar, you're squeezing tight, but it's not actually condensing or moving. I've found for myself, if something's moving slightly, you can actually gain strength. Just for example, just a rope like that, when you're squeezing that rope, it's very, very tight, but the rope actually goes in a little bit. You can kind of hear the fibers just kind of even cracking a little bit, okay? So just another idea to give you as far as closing a gripper. We'll show you a couple ways. Just taking a rope like that, that's about, I guess, about 1 inch thick. We're going to clamp the gripper down onto the top of it. Same principle, we're just going to close the gripper onto this rope. And as you squeeze this rope, it's going to condense just a little bit where the plates didn't condense at all. So just a couple different ways you might want to try stuff, different variations. Okay, once again, we're going to clamp the rope onto, let's just grab it this way. We're going to clamp the rope on there. Okay, I'm squeezing it very tightly. As I squeeze tighter, you can actually see, we'll do it once again, you can actually see that rope condense a little bit, okay? So that's going to enhance my grip even more. And once again, you can grab it with your other hand. I'm slowly pull a little more pressure until the rope slips out, okay? So crush that rope in there, just a rope like that, different sizes. Crush it tight. You're gonna develop that extra strength that's kind of get you to that next level. Work that range of motion we're talking about. And once again, grab that rope. If you can hold the rope easily with a certain amount of pressure, keep improving, and then little by little add more pressure to slip that rope out of there. Similar to a strap pull, but I think you have 2 advantages this way, is because once again you can use different items of different thicknesses, working that entire level where you're strong throughout the whole squeeze of the gripper from start to finish, okay? And also it's going to take a little extra pressure as you squeeze. That rope is going to condense a little bit. Just another simple idea we're talking about, very, very small rope this time. Same thing, rope about probably 3/8 in diameter. Last little bit, see, that would be just like closing a gripper, wouldn't that? Last little bit, see? Clamp that rope in there and squeeze. Put that pressure on there, it slips out once again. We'll show you again. Clamp on it, put that pressure with my hand. Just keep trying to hold that in there until it slips out. You'll find those last 2 exercises, holding a plate in there, adding pressure, and those ropes. Definitely try that. It'll take you to the next level. It'll give you a blueprint map to succeed with grip strength. Once again, I just want to keep reminding you, don't overtrain. It's a lot of fun. You'll say that my grip's going up, I want to keep doing it. But discipline yourself not to overtrain the same way you discipline yourself to train properly and to go to the next level. Okay, I'm going to show you another special way that I developed, how to develop a lot of crushing strength. I like to do, because of saving time, I like to do 2 hands at the same time. You know, obviously if you're doing curls or closing grippers, you work one hand and go to the next. Nothing wrong with that. I personally like to kind of do a whole body thing. It saves me time, and sometimes you can develop more equal strength that way because you can find a weak length. Once again, before we go on though, you know, if you're closing the number 4, the number 3, and you're trying to move up, say you closed the number 4, a couple, you know, you're one of the guys that's closed the 4, but you want to go up. I really encourage you to do those drills I showed you, like with the rope and also the plate, because you'll be able to greatly go up in your, not only your strength one time, but your reps as well. You'll develop a lot of usable hand strength that way. Now, what I've got here, I'm going to show you just a little, no name for the thing. I call it basically John's grip machine. Little apparatus here, very, very simple to put together. It can be put together 100 different ways. There's no set guidelines for it. I'll just kind of show you what we've got here. Obviously they're rough. That's got spray paint on it. Doesn't matter what they look like. But what we've got is a couple of 2x6s, and I've about 90% down the shaft here. I've got a nail. It's a 40-penny nail. You want to drive the 40-penny nail into the wood. Okay, you'll notice that the nail doesn't come out the other end of the wood. You just want to drive it securely in, close to the edge. Don't drive it through for safety's sake or grab anything. Okay, just get it securely in the wood. Once again, you know, it can be longer, shorter. I suggest something about like that. That's probably about probably about 20 inches in length. I'm just guessing here, again, doesn't matter. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a couple small plates around 15 pounds. I'm going to give you an illustration. You can go heavy or light on this, but I'm going to show you the way it works. So we've got 2 2x6s here. Once again, you could use a 2x8 if you wanted to. I wouldn't use a 2x4. We want at least 6 inches wide, 6 to 8 inches, and I'll show you why in just a second. So we want to have them approximately the same length. Your nail needs to be driven in at the ends once again. Start off with a couple light plates. These are about 15 pounds, oddball plates apiece. And that'll be your setup. There's a couple different ways to do this. What we're going to do first, I'm going to overlap the top board over the top of that, okay? Okay, once again, what we do, I've overlapped my 2 boards. You can play with the length you overlap them, because how you overlap them is going to matter with the resistance, how much pressure you have to squeeze. Basically, we're going to start off with something about like that. Once again, very, very simple concept. You'll have to play with a little bit yourself. I'll do it without the weights. I'll turn it this way where you can see. We're going to straddle the boards. See, as my grip like that, I use a range of motion. It's complete crushing strength. I'm squeezing up and down. I can use my thumbs if I want to, but I don't have to. Actually, right now I'm just using mostly my fingers. Okay? It's complete crushing strength. I can use as much range of motion as I want, where it almost slips out of my hand, or I can make it very short like that, where it's barely moving. Okay? And there's a tremendous amount of pressure trying to pry my hands open. I don't measure it, but once again, the longer your boards, obviously, the more weight, because you're working on a leverage factor. Just for illustration, we'll use a couple 15-pound plates. All right, put a 15-pounder here securely on there. And then one of my famous fall plates, the pumpkin plate, down here at the end. And just judging myself, probably this 30 pounds, these 15-pound plates on there, they feel least as heavy as the number 1 gripper, just to kind of give you an idea, because you're working on that leverage factor, just like a sledgehammer, something like that. But same principle, you just basically, you want to straddle over the top of your boards. Get your fingers underneath the bottom, get a good position equally. Lift it up, and then just, once again, you're squeezing up and down, okay? I'll turn this way. You're squeezing up and down. See that range of motion? That's putting a lot of pressure on the grip. Matter of fact, right now it actually feels, that actually feels a little heavier than the number 1s, more like the number 2 there probably at least. Once again with the leverage factor. Okay, one more thing I'll show you here, just common sense, and obviously as you want to go up in resistance, there's several things you can do. You can slip the boards farther apart. Your boards can be longer, or you can use more weight on your apparatus. So it doesn't really matter the apparatus you use. You don't have to get it exactly like this. because once again you can vary it by adding more weight on the ends, making your boards longer or just repositioning with your hands. So once you make an apparatus similar to this, you can have it, you can go up. In other words, the sky is the limit. And I'll show you one other simple thing. Instead of just using the range of motion, if you choose to, you can just clamp it together and hold it. You can actually do, 2 fingers at a time. You might not want to do that, it might slip out of your hand, but just simple apparatus instead of squeezing it. And using range of motion, if you want to just kind of do a locking grip, so to speak, just hold it in place. Or you can let it slightly open, like that last little bit of a hand gripper where it takes that pressure to close that last little bit, okay? That's another way, and see how long you can hold it. I'm just kind of giving you another variation of how you can use it. Just a little safety thing. If you start slow and get a feel of it, it's probably never going to slip out of your hands. Don't really try to do as much as you can on this. It might slip away from you real fast. But the position it's in, if you can't get it down to the ground fast enough, it does slip. The way you straddle, don't even worry about it. It's probably just going to fall to the ground and not hit your feet. So just think about that. Just let it go to the ground. But start slow. It'll probably never slip. But if it does, don't try to let it open too wide and extend your thumb. If it gets away from you, just let it go, okay? But you might want to try this once a week, because this when you try it, it very much simulates the hand grippers. Very much simulates the hand grippers. And once again, I'm not going to do it today, but you can also use your thumbs on top of the board if you like to. Use a little less weight that way, and work your thumbs as well. But this is a very, very simple apparatus anybody can hook up in their apartment or their backyard probably in 5 minutes. And you've got a thing that can actually, sky's the limit with it. We went from the grippers and crushing strength to touch a little bit on nail bending, steel bending, that type of thing, and give you a few special supporting exercises. I'm not going to greatly get into the steel bending itself. People like to work on bending the iron mine red nails, 60 penny nails, 40 penny nails, different things like that. I've pretty much, like I said, I'm 46 years old. I've been bending steel since I'm about 16 years old. So do the long bending, the scrolling, the whole bit. Once again, not going to get much into it, but when you do work on bending a nail, most of you guys know, I think Iron Mine has some pads for your hands that comes in their nail pack, or just use a shop rag like that. You can overlap it a couple times this way. That's going to protect the head of the nail on the head, and you can overlap it this way a couple times to protect the point. So now you have a couple extra pieces of padding on the head and on the point of the nail, and just kind of do a basic bend right here at chest level. Bring it down, my hands come together, and then move my hands and crush the nail down. Just a basic bend there, no big deal. There's a nail bent. The point I wanted to make, when I grab the nail, I bring my hands more to the inside. In other words, I'm not out on the ends of it, pressing in like that, like you're trying to compress a car, or a compactor would crush a car. Basically, you want to grab it and kind of twist it or turn it with your wrist. It's your wrist bending the nail, this particular type of bending, not just compressing it with your shoulders. I mean, if you want to do that, that's okay. That's a different type of bending. But my point, it's not good for your hands to be putting all that pressure directly driving in like that. Over a period of time, you can cause some nerve damage. So just think about safety. Do what you want to do. You're your own boss, but just a word of precaution. Don't keep putting a lot of pressure on your hand like that, especially because we're talking about hand strength. We're not talking about necessarily upper body strength. Today we're looking at twisting. Twisting the nail. So I'm going to share you some ideas on nail bending, and also it will pertain to card tearing. We're going to talk about card tearing in a few moments, but also to tear cards and bend nails, there's a lot of wrist action there. In other words, you are grabbing something like this with the nails, and you're even though you're using some upper body, you're turning it and twisting it down with your hands. Or with the cards, you're grabbing and turning and twisting. So what we're going to do is look at some special ways to develop that lower arm strength that'll work for any kind of usable hand strength, arm wrestling, but we're talking particularly about nail bending and card tearing. Okay, what we got here now, I was talking earlier about rolling up 20-foot sticks of steel, and we've got just a regular half-inch steel bar here. good grade 1/2 inch hot roll. It's 20 foot 2 inches exactly. And I'm going to do a little demonstration here how I like to coil steel up or roll it up like a garden hose. Not going to try to go too fast, kind of go a regular pace so you guys can kind of watch. Also the conditions are bad, a little bit bad out here. The ground's a little bit wet and stuff, but it doesn't really matter. You got to go with whatever the odds give you. So I'll give you a little demonstration how I do this. There's different ways I do it, or you can try it. I like to start here. I'm going to start rolling it up and pull the bar towards me. Just going to slowly get a bend in it. Just kind of get a good bend in it here to get started. Just try to keep it slowly moving. Just stay with it. So the ground's very, very wet here. It's sinking in the ground. And there we have the finished product. 20-foot stick of steel. Well, I like to do a lot of steel bending like that, where I'll take a particular piece, 1/2 inch, all the way up to 3/4, set a goal and try to put it in a box, suitcase, what have you, just coiling and just sticking with it like that. It's a good way to train, good endurance builder and strength builder. Okay, what I'm going to show you now is a special exercise, one of my favorite exercises, and one that I would definitely encourage you to use. Basically what we've got is we've got a bucket of water. Sometimes I'll use a 5-gallon bucket like off a construction site, something like that. This one's obviously not that big, and it doesn't really matter what you use. You can use a mop bucket, a garden bucket like this 5-gallon bucket. But what we're going to do, basically, I marked my water level. This bucket is about 70% full of water. I don't know if you can see it or not, but what I did, there's a little indentation on the side here. The water is exactly at that level. But what you want to do, if you don't have an indentation, or indentation in the bucket rather, you can take a piece of tape, a marker, something like that, but mark that water level, wherever that is. Make a mark there where you can see it that won't wash away. And what we're going to do, basically, I've got just a good sized bath towel. I'm going to submerge this towel completely in the water. Get it completely wet. We're going to let it soak here for momentarily, and all the water soaking in. And what the object of the game here, basically, I'm going to take this towel out in just a second. I'm going to grab the top of this towel and squeeze it tightly, and also twist. See this motion? I'm going to squeeze and twist and twist. And I want to keep the towel right over the top of the water bucket. So I want, my objective here is for all or most of the water to go right back, that I wring out, go right back in the bucket. And my goal is to actually try to get this towel bone dry, just about bone dry, so I squeeze as much water out of the towel as when I started. So in other words, the level, when I pull this towel out, I squeeze as much water in where the level will be the same. Now that's very, very difficult to do, but why I suggest doing that, instead of just grabbing and wringing, it's a good exercise, but this way it gives you a goal, or a blueprint with your grip strength to decide to succeed. Your goal is it'll motivate you this way, okay? Now I'm not going to take as much time. Normally this would take several minutes because of lack of time. What we're going to do, I'm going to pull the towel out right here at the top, okay? I'm going to start to squeeze it. And I like to sit. You can stand over the top of this. If your bucket's tall, I like to kind of sit like this. Okay, I'm starting to squeeze and twist at the same time, all right? Now look at the motion that my arms are doing. This is the same technique an arm wrestler would use. You're developing a lot of the same strength for nail bending and card tearing. Any kind of twisting that you're gonna do in any kind of sport, feats of strength, you're doing the same thing right here. This is a very, very good exercise. You can shift hands if you'd like. Squeeze and twist, squeeze and twist. Now this will give you a tremendous pump in your lower arms. And matter of fact, if you're into bodybuilding and want to pack size on your lower arms, this exercise will actually do it. Because even at this point, I'm feeling a lot of blood pump flow into my forearm area, okay? It's working your entire lower arms. You can't tell probably, but it even puts a great emphasis on your thumb strength. I feel a lot of pressure on my thumbs right now. I'd be going a little bit slower normally, but for lack of time, I'm going a little faster. But we're trying to get this towel bone dry, all the water wrung out of it, to try to get the water level the same. Just continue to squeeze and twist. Your other end, don't let it go back in the bucket. You can throw it up over here over your leg, or you can put it off to the side, whatever is more comfortable. And when you're doing it and really trying to do it to get the water level the same, don't move down the towel until that area is completely dry. In other words, if you have some more water up in here, just continue to squeeze and twist until that thing feels almost bone dry. It'll actually start to get kind of hard if you can get it to that point. We'll go just a little bit farther here. A little bit of water is going on the ground, not much, so you want to use the type of bucket and try to keep the towel over the top where very little, if any, goes on the ground, especially if you're hoping to get the water level the same, of course. Okay, we'll stop right there, but you get the idea. Once again, just look at my hands. Squeeze and twist, squeeze and twist. You can alternate sides like that if you'd wish. But it'll be very, very fatiguing exercise. This one will be, even if you're advanced. Obviously, the stronger you get, the tighter you'll squeeze the towel, the harder you'll twist. And as you get better, hopefully you can get the towel close to bone dry or bone dry in less time. Set goals for yourself, like a particular amount of time. That's a good way to do it. Say if it takes you 8 minutes to achieve your goal, next time try to do it in say 7 or something. That's a good way. But this exercise here is a very, very good usable way to develop that hand strength and wrist strength for twisting, tearing cards, and bending nails. I'm going to show you another special exercise. I've not showed too many people this before. What I call it is slat lifting. These are basically steel pieces. I call them slats. They're just heavy pieces of steel. And I'll show you what I'm going to do with them. But basically what these do, they're going to develop your entire lower arms, do a lot of emphasis on your wrist strength. Your wrists are going to be fighting to keep your hands from turning. They're going to develop a lot of strength that will help you with any kind of usable hand or lower arm strength, particularly for bending. And also what these also bring into highlight is, we spoke about earlier, developing strength from different ranges of motion. Or not ranges of motion, but range of motion rather. So basically my hand will be open wider or closer together and intermediate. So this is going to work my hand several different ways, developing strength in that entire range of motion. We'll use just a little bit of chalk. Now these, where you'd want to get these things, these are these are homemade, but basically if you went to a steel shop, you could get different types of pieces of flat, thick steel. And also, there's different ways you can do this with different types of wood, that type of thing. But how we're going to start, I don't know the weight of these. We have, that's approximately probably about 2 inches long. It's about 4.5 inches wide this way and about a 1/2 inch this way, okay? So basically, I'll show you a little course. We're going to start off kind of light. See, I'm pinch gripping this weight. This is going to work my thumbs and my finger. Pinch gripping it like this, okay? So that's working my hands with the range of motion very close together. Exercise like curls, like this. And also, of course, when I curl up, the weight's trying to fight to bend my wrist down just a little bit like that. All right? So like a curl. Now, obviously, that's not very heavy, but that's just a guideline to start. Now what we'll do, we'll go to another slat, and I'm sure you've already got the idea. We'll put them on the ground here. bunch them together. And now obviously we've doubled the weight, but we've also, our hands are opening wider. So once again, we're curling it. Now I'm fighting to maintain my grip with a pinch grip, working my thumbs, my wrist. And also when I curl forward, the weight comes out like this, it tries to bend my wrist down. So this is developing a lot of strength for the arm wrestler, for when you're wrenching, bending down on a nail like that. Your wrist has to be completely stable with the piece of steel. Some people have a strong enough upper body, once again, to bend a red nail or a heavy piece of steel, but their wrist and the supporting muscles aren't strong enough. This will help develop that. And we'll go, we've got 4 slats here. Sometimes I'll use 4 or even 5. For lack of time, we'll just do, we'll use 3 here. Show you a couple of exercises. Obviously watch your fingers with these. Try to keep them parallel. Once again, the curl motion. Like that is 3 times as heavy now. And also you'll take notice to my hand here. It's much open, much wider. Another exercise, always watch your feet, is a rowing motion like that. Okay. Show you another illustration. We've got the curl, rowing motion. Once if those things ever separate, just let them go to the ground and step right out of the way, no problem. We're going to do a slow reverse curl or a slow clean, as I like to call it. And what this will greatly work your entire lower arm, with particular emphasis to your thumbs and your fingertips. Okay, so grab your 3 slats, pinch grip them together. Just a slow clean, like that, slow clean. Once again, pull them up slow, fairly slow. You'll need a very, very tight grip to maintain them. Once again. As you get stronger, I said I've got a 4th one there, sometimes do 5, but you kind of get the idea. Now steel is fairly expensive. You can take the time and have some stuff cut like this. It'll work very well, it'll last forever. But you can also use some lumber, like several pieces of long board will work, 2x4s. You can use a couple 2x4s the same way. You're gonna get the same weight with the leverage factor. You could actually use pieces of concrete. There's different ways to make shift up, but once again, you're using that entire range of motion. Start with a thin grip. You're doing your curls or a slow clean. Then put another slat on there, or a piece of wood that just keeps opening your hand wider and wider and wider, okay? So you're working that entire range of motion. And we spoke before, don't ever do anything where your hand opens too wide where you could possibly hyperextend your thumb. I spoke about that in my first book. If you're, in other words, you're gripping something like, I can't palm a basketball, my hand's not big enough. But if I was trying to grip something the size of a basketball or even smaller that was heavy, I'd be jeopardizing my thumb, because my thumb would be kind of out like this, and I could possibly hyperextend it and hurt that joint right there. So don't ever open your hand wide, get a good range of motion, but when your thumb's being utilized like that, don't ever get your thumb in this position like that. Always have a pretty good little curl like that with it, just for safety's sake, okay? But try the slat lift with steel if you want to invest into it, or also any type of wood. You can take some 2x4s, actually, like with a 2x4 like this, you could actually have a rope and put a couple of pieces of rope on the ends of the wood and put some plates there. You can simulate the same thing, but you're using that pinching action working against your wrist the whole time. Okay, I'm going to show you another exercise that's for developing lower arm strength. Works on your grip some, also works greatly on your forearm muscles. Similar to levering hammers, a lot of you guys do different types of levering, for arm wrestling and different types of bending. But I'm going to show you a concept where you actually won't have to stop, where you can continue to, as you get fatigued, kind of go back and forth, if you will. Real simple too. This can be rigged many ways. We just simply got a dowel rod there. You can use a wooden stick. I would suggest, instead of using a steel bar, that we want something light though for what I'm going to show you. This is just simply a 5-pound plate. And basically concept, you do this with each hand. I'm going to do it with my right, but you want to work equally with your left. I'm going to use right just to kind of save time and not repeat everything. So basically you can grab this anywhere you want, depending on the length of your stick, doesn't matter. We're going to start about here. And basically you would put You want to put the weight at that end. I'm holding it for a few seconds, okay? As I start to get tired, instead of just completely stopping it and take the weight off, okay? We're gonna leave it on there, and all I'm gonna do now is just move it slightly closer to my hand, which still keeps training me at all times, but takes a little bit of the fatigue away. You know, I can go back like that. See, as I start to get more fatigued, once again, I'll move it this way. I'll hold it for a little while. You can use as much weight or as little weight on here as you want. The length of your stick doesn't matter, that'll be up to you. As I start to get a little more fatigued now and my arm starts to go down, I'm fighting it. Instead of stopping once again, I can move it closer to me. So I'm basically just kind of delaying the fatigue, if you will. And now I can hold this for a while, but I'm not completely stopping. As I get a little bit of a breather, I can move the weight back out, okay? Like that. Once again, I can move it in. As I get a little bit of a rest period without stopping, I can move it towards the end. See, now it's heavy and I'm fighting it a little bit. Move it in, like that. I would try some training like that. That's greatly helped me with all types of lower arm strength and everything. That way you're not completely going down or you're not completely stopping and just getting fatigued and stopped. Just simply move that stick, take a little bit of the resistance away, but fight to keep going. And then go up and down the pyramid or the ladder, whatever you want to call it. But if you do that training, you'll find a lot more endurance will come with your training. You know, when you start to get fatigued on the hand grippers or your workouts, you're going to develop a lot more sustained strength that way, and also you'll develop some top-end strength. Because basically, when your mind and body thinks you're going to have to stop, you lessen the load and come back to the higher level again. So I would encourage you to try something like that, just simply with a stick. Sticking away like that. Like I said, I didn't work my left hand. You'd want to work both hands equally. Just want to give you another idea there that may greatly enhance what you're trying to do. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit about card tearing here now. And you know, instead of actually tearing cards, really, obviously you guys know cards are expensive, and just some cheap ways to tear cards, just any kind of cardboard boxes. Everybody gets that stuff. You probably got a lot of cardboard around your house, or you can you know, get a lot of cardboard boxes from any hardware store, any place they just kind of throw them away. And you can get the exact same training, you know, tearing cardboard as you can to plastic coated cards, and with enough cardboard it's actually harder than the cards anyway. So my point is, I'm going to show you kind of how to tear, give you some basic ideas, and if you're doing strongman shows, you know, go get a few decks of cards and practice with the cards once a week or something, once you know you can tear them. But for your practicing, just your training, you know, to save you money, you know, just use cardboard. Some people say, you know, use overlap newspaper. That's okay, but the cardboard is going to simulate actually plastic coated cards much more than just tearing different types of paper. Basically just got an overlapped piece of cardboard there. Just going to turn it like that. And basically it's a twisting technique. This is about the same size as the cards. Just like you're going to open up a jar, just like that. Keep a good grip. Keep your left hand tight in place, like locked in a position like you're going to lock into a curl. Your right hand should be tightly over the top of the cardboard of the cards. You can compress slightly, not a lot, but just compress just a little bit of pressure, and you start to twist. See how I'm twisting now, okay? I'm twisting now. You just continue to twist and pull them apart. Okay, that's a smaller piece like that. Same technique. Grab and twist. The cards are starting to tear, and just pull them apart. Just continue that twisting motion. You know, once again with this piece here, twist, 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 and pull them apart. Okay, I'll show you the hand just a little bit more. Very, very simple technique. Once again, just so that one's already torn just a little bit. We'll turn it back this way. Kind of like opening up a jar, okay? Just grab and twist, continue to twist and pull them apart. But that's my suggestion with card tearing. You know, compress, once again, compress just a little bit, keep that good tight grip. But the reason people can't tear cards very well, here's a very simple reason, is that both hands are not equally strong a lot of times. In other words, the right hand stronger than the left hand. You know, when you're squeezing a hand gripper, you're using your right hand or left. You know, one hand's predominant. Really, when you're bending nails, most of the time, one of your hands can be much stronger than the other, and you can still most of the time bend the nail. But when you're tearing cards, the problem is you can't have an imbalance there as likely as some other exercises. You have to have both hand strength, both forearms fairly similar in strength. That's just a little tip and key there to let you guys know. But see, with the exercises that I'm showing, like with the towel twisting and a couple things I'll show you, using your wrist, you're going to develop equal hand strength or equal lower arm strength, okay? But just a little brief lesson, you know, the twisting technique of tearing cards, and a little tip, use cardboard. It's the same thing, save yourself a lot of money. You try it either, right?
John's going to tear 3 decks of cards at once. Hit it, John. Yeah, John.
Thanks.
Absolutely, totally awesome.
Felt pretty good.
John, that's absolutely phenomenal. How'd those feel?
Easier than I thought they would.
3 decks.
Okay, with card tearing, I'm going to demonstrate a simple, just a sandbag catch. I've written about that in my book, maybe a couple articles, but I'm going to tell you why we're doing this. It's going to do a little bit different too, because with card tearing, you're grabbing and twisting, but your fingertips are important, okay? There's pressure going directly on your fingertips, or if you have, as it's twisting, if this finger's here is weak and buckling a little bit, you know, it can keep the cards from tearing or actually put pressure on your fingers. So just a simple exercise. This is about a 40-pound sandbag, not very heavy. You'll have to adjust your own weight. We're gonna do it 2 hands. Instead of grabbing like this, we wanna grab like this, okay? More of a, not like a grab like that. That's another technique. We wanna try to pinch like this, okay? So as the sandbag goes up, you're pinching. Just pinch and see the narrow grip, or from hand to hand. See, that's enough pressure to pull me down just a little bit. Just a little bit there, okay? And I'm fighting with those fingertips right on the tips, the same pressure you'll be doing with the card tearing. You'll have that same fingertip pressure as you're twisting and trying to lock those cards in place. So just get a sandbag, 30, 40, 50 pounds, doesn't matter. I'm saving time. Instead of using one hand at a time, I'm using the same bag. I can grab it, go from hand to hand, whatever. But you feel kind of a similar type of stress or workout in your digits, like with a sandbag like this, as you will with the card tearing technique. So I encourage you to try that. Going to share with you a very, very special exercise. Probably no one's seen this before. I kind of invented it. Basically just got like a runner or a piece of carpet. Just a traditional runner, they call them. You can call it carpet if you want to. What I like to do, this is going to work similar muscles that you use in all types of grip strength, particularly for card tearing, working individual digits, thumbs. For fairly heavy carpet runner here, just stretch it out, kind of like a wrist roller, but you're using your fingers. We got it right there. And I stand stable, and see how I'm just rolling that up, just like a wrist roller. Working against the weight, I can see once again, it starts to get much, much heavier. See, I started off, it was very, very thin, and now as I'm rolling it up, it's getting very, very thick. See, I can't even close my hand on it. So I'm working that entire range of motion, okay? Now the rug itself will give you, a heavy enough rug or runner will give you a pretty good little workout. If your runner's not heavy enough, or you want to add resistance, all you need to do is grab a 20-pound plate or whatever. Doesn't really matter. You're going to have to experiment for yourself. Now we got a weight right there. Same technique. We start to roll this up. I'm working against the resistance of that weight now, okay? A lot more pressure because it's dragging on the ground, working against me. It's double the pressure, even though that weight's only about 15 pounds. When I get it close to me, instead of rolling it all the way back out, just to save time, you simply can just back up, just simply like that, where you don't have to stop. You can keep your pump going. And once again, roll that thing up, using your hands and your fingers. Pull the thing towards you. You can put as much weight on there or as little as you want, or no weight at all. If you have a short runner or a short piece of carpet, you might want to put more weight on it. Doesn't really matter. Just keep that rolling up down the runway. Add progressive weight as you need to. If you have a long piece of carpet, that'll work great. But I encourage you to do that one. It's a very unique exercise. You'll feel a burn and a pump you probably never felt before, but you're going to develop those same muscles that'll help you with all your grip strength, particularly to any kind of twisting for bending steel or tearing cards. I just want to give a closing word here. Like I said, everything we discussed today, I tried to give you a blueprint for grip strength, basically a roadmap for success. I believe everything I gave you through my own research and past experience with myself and others, kind of cut through some of the different ideas, and it'll definitely good. Basically, like I said, a blueprint for success with grip strength. Follow the principles I showed you. Remember to work your hand at the complete range of motion, open, wide, intermediate, and close. Work on some of these exercises like bringing the runner with the weight, rolling that up, or the carpet, wringing out the towel, all those exercises. And even if you're not interested in closing grippers, bending nails, or tearing decks of cards, the exercises I showed you and the principles, they'll go into any battlefield whatsoever and give you usable hand strength for any sport or activity whatsoever. I think it's the best exercises that I've found through the years. I think you'll enjoy them, but more important than enjoy them, I think they'll give you the results you want. So, and I'd also like to thank Iron Mine Enterprises just for everything that they've done. I'd like to thank them on behalf of everybody else, because they've been a great, basically blueprint for success for strength training and grips training for myself and many, many others. So I want to thank them, and remember to take a look at our website, gridironwarrior.com, and see what we're doing. We're going to be doing some interesting things on there. But just good luck, and once again, I appreciate you guys' support, and just want to remind you, safety tips: don't overtrain, be safe, motivate yourself not to overtrain, and discipline yourself to not overtrain the same way you're disciplining yourself to succeed. But thank you very much, and keep up the good work.